Then let's go straight to the interesting part. So we have an array operations. Idris was able to go over the concept of arrays with you and objects, and I believe everyone had gone to that class. So I'm just going to go straight to the operations. I don't want to waste your time. We have many array operations, but I'm just going to show you some. So let's say, for example, you're given an array that looks like this. Const, let's say 0 interns. This is an array. This is a way to start an array, and then let's just say use Abbas, let's use Flora, and then let's use Ima. That's it. So those three names, those are 0 interns now. So you have, let's imagine this array is like a workspace. You have things on the workspace. You want to add an intern to the workspace. How would you do that in the concept of an array? Do that. So that gives you one method. We have a method called array.push. So in this concept now, I could just say, I want to add to the 0 interns array. I'll just do Zuri. Array now stands for any array you're trying to operate on. So this is an array. I can do this. If I do this with an object, it's not going to work. So I just do 0 interns dot push. Who do I want to push to the workspace? Who do I want to invite to the workspace? Invite, let's say Andrew Cole. Andrew Cole is a cool guy. He needs to join the workspace. I invite him to the workspace. Push. Then I want to see what happens to my array after I do this. That keep it read from top to bottom. So the engine will read it and come here. We read from top, then comes to the bottom. So once I console log 0 interns, what would you expect to see? Oh, and you're part of our workspace now. Yeah. So what if I want to kick off somebody? Let's say Abbas has not been active, he has not been doing his assessment, but I need to kick off Abbas. What do I do? So we have array.pop. Well, we have array dots. Let me shift for now so you understand. So array.pop and array.shift, they do two different things. But they do the same thing basically, we'll do it in two different ways. So let's say we have Andrew Cole in this, we have Andrew Cole in our array at the moment, but I want to remove Abbas from the first side. I don't want to remove Cole. How do I do that? I'm just going to do this. If I do array dot, if I do 0 interns, remember the array now we're looking at is the array. If I do 0 interns dot shift, and then I come here, and I console log 0 interns, what's going to happen? I do. Abbas is out of the workspace. He has been kicked off. He was not serious with the internship. So Abbas is out. But what if I want to kick off Andrew Cole? Andrew Cole came in. It's cool, but I don't like him any longer. I want to pick him up. We have another word called pop. So pop removes from the end of an array. Shift removed from the first of the array, like from the first guy in the array. That's what pop. That's what shift does. So we have pop. I'll just come now. I've added Andrew Cole, but I want to remove him in this step. So see what's going to happen. Once it's added and it's removed. Andrew Cole was added in this step, which is line 36. And then when it came to line 42, Andrew Cole was removed. So you have the word pop. Let's say, okay, I added Andrew Cole to the last. Let's say it's not Andrew Cole that came to the workspaces. I have a workspace. Then let's say Xylos came. It says number one man on your workspace. So how do I assure that happens? I use the word on shift. On shifts and push, we do the same thing. They are on array, but push adds to the end of the array, while on shift adds to the beginning of the array. So when I do on shifts now, and I use Xylos, and I send it. Xylos is part of my array. You can see that he's the first guy. He just came from nowhere and he's the first guy in the array. That's an array operation. Okay, let's move into something. Let's move into string operations. I'm just going to quickly comment this out. I'm going to quickly comment the console log so it doesn't get in my way. So let's say I declare a string. The string first is called, let me just, I'm just going to briefly copy what we have here. I want to quickly move what we have here down. So I want to quickly move what we have here down. I don't want to write that code. It saves me time. It's a productivity hack. I just copy it and I continue. But I want to use it for an example. Let's say I want to check, does the full name contain Abasif? Does it contain something? So I have my name here, Abasif, okay? Let me just use my name, Abasif, okay? And I come here. We have a string method called include. So I come here and I say console log. I want to see the results. Console log full name that includes first name. What do you expect to happen? Does my full name have Abasif in it? It should, right? Once I run that, what do you expect to happen? Sorry, something else is getting in our way, I think. Yeah, just getting in our way about that. So you see the tree, so that's getting in our way. So when I run this. So of course, full name includes my first name, Abasif Reke. If I try that with last name, you should expect the same. Yeah, it includes my last name. What if I come now and I say it includes Xylos? Does it include Xylos? No, it doesn't. My full name does not include Xylos. Right, that's it. I could come. Okay, I want to. Let's say you are given Abasif again. Go to return the first 5 letters in the word Abasif again. We also have another method called slice. Just this method now. If I come now and I do console.log, first name, I just want to it sounds, you're trying to slice something. I want to slice something. I want to start from index 0. First of all, you should know in JavaScript, anything that can be iterated on iterables, that's we have arrays and strings. Their indexes start from 0, 1. So A is 0, index 0, B is index 2, A is index 3, as it goes forth. So if I start from 0 and I end at, let's say, index 4, what do you expect to happen? Look at this and try to count from here. You should know that once you use slice, it includes this index, but doesn't include the last index. I'm hoping I still got that right. When I return that, so we have index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It included Abbas, but did not include I, but that's what slice does. So if they tell you to return Abbasi, you should do index 5, right? Once you run that, it gives you Abbasi. Yep. That's a string operation. All right. I don't want to bore you with too much. I'm going to link you to resources at the end of this. Let's look at basic operation. Let's look at methods, object methods. So we have, let's say you're given an object. This is an object. An object is called, let me just name it's JS soldiers. Yeah. And then this one now we have one. We say ninja 1. That's an object key. Name, let's say we name John. Anybody I join the workspace, it's just a coincidence. I'm just using random names here too. We call it let's say Jane. And then let's say Ninja 3. We call it Steve Darlington. Yeah, so these are all JS ninjas, cool guys. And then someone comes and say, you know what? I want you to give me all the keys in this object. Like Just give me Ninja 1, Ninja 2, Ninja 3. Forget about these ones. How do we go about that? JavaScript gives us a handling method. With objects, you can do something like this. And do JS soldiers. You can do objects dot keys JS soldiers. So when you do object dot keys JS, what do you expect to happen? It gives you all keys in this as an array. So Ninja 1, Ninja 2, Ninja 3. Someone comes and says, you know what, I don't care about the keys, I don't care about the title, I want to divide their names in this object. Just come and do object.values. So object.values will give you all the values in this object. So it gives you John Dates with Darlington. What if you want both? You know what? I want to compare them side by side. I want you to give me, it's a task. You're giving a task. Give me the keys and the object and the values placed side by side. How do you go about that? We have another object dot entries. So it gives you this Ninja John, Ninja 2 Jen, Ninja 3 Speed Darlington. So yeah, this is a common object method use. So I want to just show you common methods. I don't want to do into something too deep or something that you will not end up needing now. We'll move into array methods now. So array now, an array is called let's say top spenders is the array called. You also, as a developer, you have sometimes you have problems trying to name variables. Let's just say there we go. Then we'll come and mention Shatawale. This is not, of course, this is not facts. I'm just, and then let's name one. I have 3 top spenders, right? In this array. Then someone says, you know what? I want you to look at, I've given an array. Look at the array and then return and let me know if Bonabo is part of it, is a top spender. How would you go about that? Well, this method is not just popular to just strings. Arrays have this method. You come and say, let me just do console. Just have in mind that wrapping any operation by console.log would make you see the results because it will return it and you can just see it in your console. So I could just come and wrap it and I say, you know what, top spenders dot includes vulnerable, and I run. True, vulnerable is a top spender. Let's try Vico. Is Vico, is he on funds? Is he a top spender? So we run Vico. Vico is not a top spender, that's false, according to my own list of top spenders. So that people will not vex, let me add this kid. This kid top spender by default. So when I come here and I say, does my top spender include this kid? Of course, this kid is a top spender, right? So then I now say, you know what? This array, I want you to filter this array and remove anybody whose name does not start with W. Does not start with W. So I could just come and do something like this. Let's just name it updated top spenders. And then I'll do top spenders dot filter an array method. Keep in mind that don't see me bringing array methods at my head. I've used them a lot, but once I'm done, I'm going to link it to everything. And once you go through them, you also know these methods as well. So, and then dot filter now, I'm just going to, this is an arrow function. I noticed that video has gone over what arrow functions are, so I'm not going to take us back. So once I do this now, I can now do a condition. Let me just do a condition. I'll say return. I'm going to introduce a new method. So you can see we can use methods inside methods. It's going to be another method, yeah? I'll say something like this point, item in this case of this. So this does what we call an iteration. It iterates over an array. Iteration. So it goes from index 0 to index 1 to index 2 to index 3. The implementation detail is not our concern, but we know that JavaScript provided us a way to have that done. So we know that's in mind. So we know that for every time it runs, it's going to look at each of these items. Then when it gets to the end of the array, it's going to immediately exit to stop running. So when I come here now and I look at this array, return only elements that item dot start with is a method. It looks at does a string start with a letter you give it. So if I return just ones that start with W now, and I come here and I do console.log updated top spenders. Yeah, we only have this kid. This kid is now on the wall of his own. Every other person is not a top spender, just a regular spender. You could come here and say, let's look for someone that starts with Davi, just Davi, to show you how it really works. So at this point, it looks at the video. The video starts with that. Only the video will fulfill that condition. So array of filter will only return elements where the operation you give, you have to give an operation here. The operation you give, which is a Boolean operation, where the operation you give returns true. So item that starts with the video returns true. And then this method will include it to the returned array. That's a JavaScript thing. That's what filters. We can do something like this: return all elements that does start with. So I just use a new syntax. So you see the way we're going as we code, I bring in syntax. So this now will reverse the order. So if this sounds true, when you use this bang sign at the side, it's going to turn false. Let me demonstrate that for now. Then we'll see the results. So if I come here and I do console.log opposite of true, what do you expect to happen? Sorry, I'm going to comment this out so it doesn't interfere with our results. If I do this, you expect what? I know you should have the answer in mind. Hold on. Yeah, the answer is, so opposite of true is false. If I come here and I do the band sign, that's the exclamation mark, then I do false. What do you expect? It gives you true. But let me take it a step further. What if I do two bangs, bang, like this? What's going to happen? I come here and I do this. It gives you false, yeah? So if you use this, it will first of all make it true, then make it false, to reverse the order. So you just count it twice, true, false. If you use this on true, it will make it true again. But that's just a trick. Like there are use cases for that, but I'm not going to go into that for now. Then yeah, we have this. I don't want to demonstrate that. So that means this will only return elements that do not start with the video, right? About the same page. When I come here and I do this, yeah, the video is no longer spender. It's no longer balling, not a million on his accounts. Yeah, then let's look into another method. I just want to show you the very three common methods, array methods we use. Then I'm going to just look at the top spenders again. Let's use map. Let's say, for example, someone said, you know what, for all these people, you have a list of names on Instagram. Let's not call it us, but let's call it Instagram handles. Let's do IG handles. But your Instagram, you want to go through a list of handles and add top spenders to all of them, or add anything to their names. How would you do that? With an array, I do something like this. You don't want to do updated handles. Let me just do this for it throws error. Updated handles equals to ig handles dot map an item. This is the syntax. Then I'll now return. So it's going to return each of these. Map does a transform. It will transform. You might decide not to do a transform yourself. I might decide to just come and, you know what, I'll just return item. I'll return an item and that's it. When I run here, everything stays the same. Nobody's pissed off that I updated their names. You have Davido, you have Shatawale, all of them Shatawale. What if I now come and say, you know what? Let me add something to their name. So I'm going to use our concatenation again. I'll come now and I'll do celeb. Let me just add celeb to their name, then underscore, and then I'll now do this. I'll return item. Remember, item is this item here, and this item here points to each of the elements in the array. To take it further, to show you what else you can have as an argument here, I'll just do this. You can have item. The second argument is index. The last argument is the array itself. That's the array. That's the IG handles array. You could just name it main array. All these are passed into JavaScript. But when I link here, because you'll see more of this. So once you return this, what do you think is going to happen? Take a good guess what happen. So ideally, you have celeb appended to their names. Everybody now that is on Instagram, their names will not have celeb appended to them. We have at Instagram done that operation, and array helped us do that. That's it. So we have so far we mentioned two methods for we mentioned three. Sorry, include, filter, and then map. I'm going to leave it there. There's also another method, reduce, but reduce is a little advanced, so I just want to leave it. I don't want you to be thrown off at the moment. I'm just going to leave it at just include map and filter. But anyway, if you want more information, I'm going to link the resource at the end of this class. So we have covered this at this moment. And right now, I'm just going to do this. This is something that, you know, people appreciate very well in JavaScript, but it's always good to know how it works. So let's say we're going to do two functions now. Sorry. This is a function. Map. The map is a function. It's about a function. And I like to use arrow functions myself. So for school, let's say we have this. We do var equals to, we use var now. var number equals to 1. Yeah. Then we create a function. This function, we do this. This function. Our function should have a name. So I'm going to name it do it. Just a regular name. Sorry about that. We are not saying so proper. This function, what does it do? It will return number. Yeah, right. Then I come here and I console log do it. So I'll run do it, so it's giving me return value. When I call a function, it has a return value to it to give me what it returns. If I just come and I do this like this, and I don't give it anything, the operations will run, but you don't see anything logged to the console. So that's it. That's the function returned undefined because it return anything. All functions return on time by default. Once you specify a return value, then it's going to return what you want to return. That's it. Now a number. What is this number going to be? Does it throw an error, or does it return the number we expect it to return? It returns 1, right? It sees 1. But this function, okay, let's take it a step further. So I'll explain my point. So I come here and I do var number is equals to 4. Okay, I return number and I do this. What is it supposed to return? Take guess why this running. It's 4, right? That's we have. Maybe let me use, if I use var, it might say var can be reassigned, right? Let me use const. So you know const cannot be cleared sign. That's one thing about. So once I respond, what do you expect to happen? It doesn't throw an error. Abi? So in JavaScript, or scope in JavaScript, it's called scope. So what scope are you in now? So I'm just going to take you to a little drawing now. This drawing I drew it here, scope and closure. So what happens now is for scope. So let's imagine C is a family, its own scope. So this around here is a B is a function living in its own, and then C, right? Function living in its own scope. So with the way the arrows are pointing, for when C for something, a variable or anything you give it to it, the first of all start at its own scope. You look at its scope. Do I have, so in our case, seed number here, right? So it's come and look now. So this is the scope, this is the scope, this is the function. Then anything declared out is in the global scope. And it is now using index or address. So a file scope is like a global scope. So it's in the global scope now. So it will come. You gave it number. Where is number? Is number in my scope? Let's look at its scope. It has 4 in its scope, like I told you. So C with its own scope, it chooses its own scope. Once you look at the scope, you see it has C. It will just return that C. But if it didn't have C to go into this scope, is there a number in this scope? No, there's no number in this scope. Then it will now go finally into the last scope. Let's imagine this is the outer scope. In this scope, we have number. We also have number. What's going to happen? Well, comment it and see what happens. So without number and I print out number and I return number, what happens? It throws an error. It's a reference error. You use a variable that has not been, but you decided to use it. It lets you know that number is not defined anywhere. So it has gone through all this. You go into this scope, you didn't see it. Going to the global scope, you didn't see it. It returns reference error. That way, it helps you predict what has gone on with your code, right? So that's how code works generally in JavaScript. I'm going to give you examples. So let's imagine something, right? I come here and instead of logging, let's not log do. Let me do this. Sorry. So let me come here. I do var number here, and I come here and I just log number. I'm not going to run that function. What's supposed to happen? The same thing, yeah? So the console log looked at the global scope and you didn't see anything. So you just immediately returned an error. But that now means one thing, that var is function scope. So when you declare any variable within a function, it's very hard to look into it from the outside. That's how var works. var has function scoping. We also have block scope. So we have block scope and function scope in JavaScript. And ideally, by going into this, it's going to take us down like that hill. But then what I've shown you here is sufficient for this. And I don't want to let you know how functions look at variables when you give them variables. But then that's it for now. And we look at what we call an execution context. It's also around the same thing. So when you call a function, the function creates not just a scope, but it creates an execution context. So it's executing around this context. And then this one has its own execution context, and this function has its own execution context. That way, it's created in the JavaScript engine. The JavaScript engine is able to separate every function operation. Because when you do something like you do, let's say something like this, when you do handles.map, for each of the iteration, a function is created and added to the engine. And each of those functions maintain their own execution context. That's it. It's like scope, but it's not exactly like scope. But I'm going to link a resource to that. If you are interested in that, it's an advanced case. If you're interested in that, you can go on and do it. But it's not something that is really pertinent for you to excel in class. Then we have closure. I'm going to show you closure. And closure mostly is what makes JavaScript so powerful. People ask, why do you like JavaScript? I just want to show you this. So you have a function now. Functions can turn basically anything in JavaScript, and functions can themselves be returned. I could name something. I just do. I'll name it. I'll name it return function. Right? Returns a function, and then I come here. Let me use the function keyword so it will be clearer for you. Function. I'll name it return func, and then I come here and I do. And then right, and I return another function. Yeah, this function now I can name it child form. So I'm inside a function, so I'm a child function, and then I come here. I pass an argument to this function. It's called a, and come here and also the log a, right? So when I come here now, remember I told you something that each of them maintains their scope, right? Scope and closure. So I could do something like this. So what I could do, this is a scope. So this function can look into its outer scope based on our diagram. But the direction is just from in out. You can't go from out in. So if I come here, sorry. If I declare a function, if I come here, I declare something, I do const b is equals to 2. And I come up here and I do console.log. What do you expect is going to happen? Okay. Before I even do that, let me just run this function. And this function now is going to introduce it to what we call closure. Once you pass it 5, nothing much, right? I run it. What's going to happen? It fails. B is not defined, but B is defined inside its inner function. So this function cannot look down into another scope, but the function inside can look out into its outer scope. It's one way from not out in. That demonstrates why I pointed these arrows outside. But that's just it. That's just it, by the way. Yeah. Let me just return this. So what do you think is going to happen on this? What is going to return? It's going to return another function. That's return a child function. But you know what? Let's not just call this function directly. Let me just do this and let me just call it form. I'll just call it form. And then I'll call it like this. So when I call it like this, and then when I come and call func like this, what do you expect to happen? Remember, I call this function and I pass it 5. This function returns a function with this function. So when I call this function, what's going to happen? It returns 5. But of course, you're like, well, it's obvious that should happen. But this is not something that's available in every language for a fact, but it's available in JavaScript. What happens now is that when I declare this function, like, even though I had not called this function will always remember. This function will always remember that it's supposed to, that it's always have access to this 5. This function will always have access to the function it's supposed to. Like it's always going to have access to this 5. So what happens now is that once I create this and its execution context is created, then we have what we call closure. A closure is created and is maintained by the engine, by the JS engine. So the JS engine now will keep track of this value 5. If this could not happen, if that did not happen, you will not have this function remembering that this function that's inside. Because once you call this function, it executes the one inside. You will not have this function remembering that its parents have 5 as its arguments. But at this point now, you've separated the whole process. So that idea of function returning functions, then calling inner functions, which will now remember the values that parents had, is what's called closure in JavaScript. JavaScript maintains a closure of variables that are needed by functions that may need it in the future. The way it's designed, the engine can know for sure that this function will one day need this variable. So it's not going to destroy it. After every execution, it does what we call garbage collection. It's going to clear every variable, try to free up memory that are not needed. So once you do closure like this, is to maintain that closure. But once we call it here, at this point now, we can delete the value of A in memory. It's part of what we call memory it's memory management in JavaScript. It's an advanced case, but I just decided to touch this in case you see code where a function returns a function, you will not be so confused. Yeah, so that's it. And we moved on to the next one, if and else statements. Then for the if and else statements, we're just coding along. Then let's say you want to do something. Let's use foo bar. So we have a statement, we have a problem.